Papa B,
How are you doing, sir?
doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. And how shall I refer to you? Jay, is it?
Yep, Jay.
Wonderful, Jay. How are you
And
doing,
you,
man?
same thing, Papa B, or do you prefer something else?
Papa B's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I appreciate the time.
Oh, my pleasure. Whenever anybody wants any of my insight into whatever I can help out for security, I'm always happy to oblige.
From what I hear, you're the best in the business.
I read directions. At best, I'm a coach and a person that yells at people enough that it gets through their thick skulls, breaks through some of their misconceptions, and hopefully allows them to progress in a multi-layered security posture that's somewhat reasonable.
Well, that's the idea, especially when you have new people coming into crypto and the hype that's built up around Pulse Chain and Richard Hart's projects. We want to make sure that people are brought in the right way and they don't get screwed over.
We're growing a community. I mean, we're growing incredibly quickly, of course, but nobody stops to think about the fact that for every onboard that you get into this amazing new asset, that you have two or three people that get rinsed, right?
Yep.
And when they get rinsed, you aren't doing your service to the community by retaining those fresh onboards. And I do this for completely selfish reasons, as I'm sure you're aware, right? I don't want the attackers to get those funds from people that would have good, strong hands in the future, only to dump the price on our heads. So that's why I'm motivated.
Yeah, no, I had a guy, he messaged me on Telegram just a couple days ago. I mean, this guy, he just found my channel a few days ago. He's like, yeah, man, they had the Telegram scam. Like, I think it was a Pulse Chain support scam.
And every day, man.
Yeah.
There are many of those support scams. I haven't been honored to be named as hello, I'm your support assistant. I'm Papa B. They haven't cloned me yet, but they've cloned almost every other admin in our chat. And it's mostly because I insist on giving support for people in public only, which is, I think, what we all should be doing. There should be eyes on this. Everything should be sanitized. When you talk to somebody, never disclose your seeds to anybody at any time for any reason. Never type them into a keyboard, but support with another party in there, maybe live in voice, is a lot better, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I've got a lot of I'm talking fresh people into even crypto who are seeing my stuff for the first time and they're really excited about Hex and they want to know, like, obviously how to purchase Hex, how to stake it and all that. This video, really, the purpose of it is to dumb things down and just explaining it to like a 2-year-old kid. I'm trying to get things as like simple as possible. So I wanted to break it up into 4 sections. First is kind of like your background, like how you got into crypto, how you got into security, your why you're passionate, obviously for selfish reasons, but just kind of get into your background a little bit. And then the second part would be fundamentals of security, some of the nomenclature, just some of the technical terms so that people know what you're talking about. And then we can kind of get into like the strategy, the best strategy to protect your assets. And then at the end, just doing like a Q&A. I've had a few questions from some of my community. I asked them to write down a few questions for you of what they have in security. So that's kind of what the structure that I have for this video.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that structure. We can proceed with, what was it, my background first?
So when did you first get into crypto? And then how did you become so educated in security?
Okay. Well, let's answer the second part first. My education in security began in 1998. I've worked at a number of startup companies in Silicon Valley and globally, right? Everywhere from the early days of firewall technology, IDS and IPS technology, services, monitoring centers, leading on to IoT applied in manufacturing. So OT security as well. Plus a very, very precious stint in, what the government does and in monitoring their communications, monitoring persons of interest, how we triangulate exactly where these people move on around the map, geolocation, ring fencing, all that stuff that Snowden blew the top off.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're like
back in the day.
Snowden.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, I was on the other side of that equation.
Okay, all right.
And then he popped the cork off of what I was actually selling.
Oh, wow.
But then after that, I was like cursing him, saying, "You've cost me my job." Everything kind of snowballed, so to speak. After that, But then it gave me an amazing opportunity. A window opened up to actually begin a new life in terms of protecting the security and privacy of the user for secure telephony. All these things were just like on the cusp of amazing opportunities and huge exploits in security. I mean, this is like over a 25-year span. I mean, if you really boil it down, I've been active in security for 25 years and my road has been long and winding, and mostly in Asia Pacific, although I've also done work in the Middle East, Australasia, some in the United States as well. So that's my background from a professional standpoint. However, you should know that I was always on the sales side of things. Okay. Right. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a coder, but I have to be very compelling in my argument to argue with engineers and with security professionals, because if you sit down at a table, the first thing that they do, if you're a salesperson, is say, okay, I want to make sure that you don't know what I know, right? So they test you. And if you're not able to answer everything that they throw at you, you're shown the door, because they earn points by saying no. So that was my that's my history. Now, why was I interested in security? No, I really wasn't at the very beginning. I was interested in a good job. I have a background in English language and writing and theatrics, and these things were very interesting to me. But living in Japan, as I do, coming back to the big gold rush in Silicon Valley in the .com days, it opened up my eyes. I've got to really specialize and decide where I fall, into these categories, and security just happened to be it.
And so, where did the bridge cross over into crypto?
Okay, this is crazy. Like a lot of sad stories, I was brought under the wing of a very important and I can't name his name, but a very high-profile cryptographer.
Sure. Okay.
And in the days when I was first introduced to cryptocurrency, I had the opportunity, I think in 2013, to get my beak wet in it just to play around. I turned to this gentleman though, and I said, what do you make of this? It has crypto, and the prefix is crypto, and you're a cryptographer. So can you tell me a little bit about it? And he took out his credit card and he threw it down on the table and he said, there's my crypto. And I'm like, wow. And that was like the foundation of all of his lectures. You're following him because he's, one of the founders of your company, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he doesn't buy into it. So I was kind of kept away from Bitcoin at that time. Later, once again in 2016, it was part of a trading system of a company that I was consulting for, and they wanted me to incorporate more cryptos into the whole thing and sell them on this idea of the secure way of the trader's desk to being able to do these quick transactions for trades. They had traditional stocks and securities and things like that, and then they wanted to have crypto in there. So again, I'm like, maybe there's something to this. If this high-profile trading organization wants to actually incorporate it, it must be real. Obviously, by then, it was starting to gain some traction. People were talking about it. And again, I had my opportunity, but it wasn't until like 2017 that I made my first investment, like a lot of other losers. So I was given my pass, was held back in 2013, told not to care anything about it, that it would not be a thing from a very esteemed, respected person, fudded me out, so to speak. And then I got into it in 2017. In 2017, I made all the wrong choices like everybody else, save one. In 2017, I got myself my first hardware wallet. Before I started on everything, I looked at all the angles. The paper wallets are great, but the ability to transact was very limited. So there wasn't that convenience aspect. And I did my research, and the first hardware wallet that I bought, like a lot of people, was a Ledger Nano S. And I was fascinated more about the hardware wallet than I was about the crypto, because you'd buy the crypto and I figured I would just hold the crypto. I wasn't going to trade it. But after that, I wanted to make sure, how is this secure? So that's the beginning of my road into crypto and security. And it wasn't until many years later when I discovered Hex. Richard Hart was squawking about how everybody's got it done wrong. And I used to really be entertained by Richard Hart and the way that he would just criticize every other shitcoin out there. And then one day in the chat, I think somebody says, hey, Richard, you talk a lot. Why don't you just make your own damn crypto? And that was like the spark when he said, yeah, maybe I will when I have time. And that cascaded into the notion of, well, that first idea that he had, but we won't talk about that because it just didn't get off the ground. But then Bitcoin Hex, and later the launch of Hex. And we had that year-long wait of things to take off. So now security is really important again, because we've seen an asset that you just threw a few remnants of some shitcoins that you had into during the adoption amplifier phase. Suddenly you've got to protect millions of dollars worth of assets. It's a throng of early adopters in Hex and soon to be Pulse Chain. So I figured this is a way to get the word out there, make sure that nobody dumps on our heads and pushes the price down. Although momentarily it still hurts. It hurts to lose community members when you want to just share the good word, right? Of how this is the asset that you believe in, and they get rinsed. So they come to me now as kind of their soft shouldered to cry on. I get direct messages maybe twice or three times a day about, oh, I did this wrong, Papa. How can I get this back? What can I do to start over again? And I say, I'm not a forensic specialist. I don't have that ability. I'm more of an insurance salesman, right?
Preventative.
It's all preventative. It's all proactive and preventative. The sad thing is, just to go back to philosophies, white hat hackers or ethical hackers have exactly that. They have ethics, and they could potentially have the ability to go reclaim your assets, but they can't because they're barred from that from a philosophical point of view. Gray hat hackers may help you out to go and get your funds back, but they respect the black hats at the same time. And they're kind of these alchemists that are very crafty and very difficult, tricky people to deal with. Also, you're not 100% sure that you can trust this type of person. They often insist on cash transactions or Bitcoin transactions to do the work, and then they'll only run the code in the privacy of their own home with you in person there, and only once. Black hat hackers, on the other hand, far outnumber both of these categories,
right.
And they've got no ethics and no morals, and they don't give a shit. They're government funded operations. People don't understand that these are mostly government funded operations.
Really?
Yes. Let me tell you, from my monitoring days, 110%. A lot of them are from Southeast Asia. A lot of them are from the Indian subcontinent. You've got Russia in the mix, and of course, China.
Is it just about money and taking people's money? Is it just trying to make like a statement against crypto?
No.
Just getting people's money?
Getting people's money. Entire government states are run on the amounts that they can collect from cybercrime. So they fund them and keep them going and make them, they're very, high profile in some countries. There are several floors of high-rise office buildings are dedicated to these types of specific attacks. The things that you come up that they make. Yeah, because look, this all touched off from the introduction of IP telephony. IP was the easy way to make phone calls, to call into mom and dad and do these confidence trickster type of crimes, right? It's like, hey, hello, I'm from Microsoft. You've got some problem in your computer. You got to get this taken care of right now. Or, hey, mom, it's me, Joey. I don't know who Joey is. Oh, mom, you're a little bit senile now, but it's Joe. I'm in trouble. I need $10,000. It has to be wired to this address. Okay, I'll go
tricking old people out of money.
Absolutely. And 100%. That stuff got old, but now you've got another generation of far more susceptible targets with a lot more money. The low-hanging fruit is much juicier, and that is in crypto,
because the information gap, the learning curve of getting into crypto plays a big part of it. So they're kind of just preying on the people that are just naive to it or ignorant. That's the goal of this video, is to help those people to onboard the correct way, make sure that they're protected from the get-go. Let's back up a little bit and talk about like some of the fundamentals, some of like the nomenclature that people need to understand. So first off, what's the difference between like a hot wallet and a cold wallet? Like, what is a hot wallet? What is a cold wallet?
Excellent. So a hot wallet, it's a set of seeds. Seed words are these funny little words. They come in packs of 12 or 24 generally. For hot wallets, they'll appear as 12. And what they do is they are the representation of your private key. Your private key is effectively your claim on the blockchain to your tokens that exist there. And that's why the word wallet is a bit of a misnomer. Think of it as a keychain or a hat check receipt or a bank statement book, right? It's your loose claim into the blockchain to make sure those assets are able to be moved by you. The difference between a hot wallet and a cold wallet is simply one is always connected and has maybe a residual store of these seeds that is accessible to an attacker through your computer all the time. As long as your computer is on, the residue folder of those seeds is stored and it can be attacked. A cold wallet is a whole different philosophy, and that is that it doesn't exist online whatsoever. It's not on your computer. There's no residual on your computer. The original iteration of the cold wallet was a paper wallet. It's just a printout of your private key or your seeds taken offline. Most likely it's written down nowadays to ensure security.
So real quick, so what's the difference between, because I know a lot of people can get it confused by what a private key is and what a seed phrase is. What's the difference there?
Okay, so this is great. This is a question that I'm asked often. Seeds are a representation in understandable form of your private key. Private key is the way that the computer will understand what the seeds represent to you. It'd be very difficult for you to manage effectively your private key, which is like a string of so many letters and numbers, and sometimes you can get them wrong. What about creating a method by which these 12 words that are on a list of 2048, known words, approved words on the list, when introduced into this algorithm, will, taking the first 4 letters of each word, of course, because the rest is just garbage, right?
Yep.
So the computer recognizes these first 4 letters of 12 words, and then in sequence, they affect each other to create a unique code of a whole bunch of letters and numbers that you don't have to worry about managing, because they exist to be injected securely into the blockchain to be able to access what funds are yours. To make that more simple statement, they're effectively the same, but one of them is easy for you to read as a human, and the other one is easy for the computer to read as a computer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So why would somebody want to store their cryptocurrency on, let's just take the cold wallet. We'll just put that aside for a second.
Sure.
What's the advantage of holding your crypto in a hot wallet versus like an exchange?
Okay. So this is good. I'm glad we're going good, better, best. So bad is generally an exchange, but it's a necessary evil. When you bring fiat currency, dollars, right, or yen or whatever currency you deal with in your country, hard paper, into the system, you really nowadays need an on-ramping solution, and that is a centralized exchange more times than not. There are other options open to you, but you have to do your know your customer and anti-money laundering stuff, and it's regulated, and you feel safe, and they're high profile, and they have these great TV commercials during the Super Bowl. You have to use these guys now, but you really don't own any assets if you don't own access to those phrases, those words. And the centralized exchange doesn't offer that to you. They keep them. They keep your private keys in their list of known private keys in their massive wallet. You are given the ability to see it. You can send off of their exchange, but you need to have your non-custodial. What they do is they offer custody of your wallet for you. They take their responsibility for you. You don't have to worry about these crazy words and codes. You just see it on your screen like a bank statement. There's my money, right? But really what you're doing is you're giving up custody. To retain custody, you have to have a non-custodial wallet. In this case, we're talking about a hot wallet that would have your 12-word seed phrase owned by you. You write it down. You're the only one that knows it. Now you have what is true ownership of your cryptocurrency. So you can send it to that wallet from the exchange. Now there's no recourse. Once you send it from the exchange, you have custody unto yourself. You also are truly your own bank. The responsibility for your security is all onto you. There's nobody you can call for support, and nobody can get your funds back if they're rinsed out of your account.
Well, and I would say just to the audience, for anyone new to crypto, that's actually the way you want it, because you want to take personal responsibility for your finances in general. Taking middlemen out is kind of the ethos of cryptocurrency to begin with. That's something that just comes with the territory of crypto at this point, and it's the best way to be most secure. So from here, now that we got it in a hot wallet, anyone watching who doesn't know, there's still risks to holding cryptocurrency in a hot wallet. So explain some of the risks of holding crypto in a hot wallet.
They're huge risks. It's like introduction of the seatbelt into the automobile. It wasn't accepted at first because it just didn't feel good, right? Or head restraints in an automobile because I can't see past a head restraint. I can't get the wind in my hair the way I want it. And I feel like I'm kind of anchored down to the seat. I can't get that race car feeling. And I'm willing to take the risks of going right through my windshield. We're about at that point now with these hot wallets. The risks are many. So every normal attack that can occur to you for your data on your PC or your Mac or your phone, they're the same as they always ever were. The attack is the same. You got keyloggers, you've got pineapples that can give you the wrong access points that you could automatically connect to. You've got people that can actually offer to give you support, and you can grant them a remote access to your PC. So there's many different threat vectors out there for both your PC and your phone. The difference is now there's a bigger cash prize at the end of their effort, and that is your cryptocurrency in your browser-based extension soft wallet. It's convenient. It looks good. It seems to have the right security attached to it because you get your seeds. However, things like the Mars Stealer exploit that was just found about 10 days ago is a $140 type of piece of software that an attacker can simply buy off the dark web and run, and it goes and looks for that seed store, that encrypted seed store of your words that resides still on your PC or your phone. It makes out with them, and then it covers its tracks. Targets, I think, 40 mainstream types of hot wallets, of which MetaMask is one. A Binance wallet is another. Trust wallet, that's also owned by Binance, is one. So there's 40 of these. This goes on and on. So that's the pitfalls of having only a hot wallet to work with. The difference with MetaMask that we'll get to in just a moment, because I know where your next question is going, is how to effectively use something like MetaMask paired with something else to make it truly secure and convenient.
So to play kind of devil's advocate, there's many scenarios in which someone could say, well, I can just spread my risk out, have several hot wallets and just spread my crypto out so that if one gets hacked, if I'm safe like that, then why do I need a cold wallet?
That's good policy either way, even if you're using cold wallets. You'd want several cold wallets because if a zero-day attack happens, and as a security-minded person, which I hope everybody turns out to be, you have to assume that a zero-day attack will hit someone and you're only going to know about it when it happens.
What is a zero-day attack?
That's a great question. Zero-day attack is an attack that suddenly surfaces. It's novel, it's unique, and no one's prepared for it. And it's effective. Imagine that we're all swimming in a huge bait ball of small fish, and a predator comes up and takes a bite out of that bait ball. Well, the bait ball has the ability to swivel around, or maybe the predator feasts enough that they are full and they swim away. The majority of that bait ball is going to survive, or at least enough to go reproduce. Right. So just as in nature, we will witness zero-day attacks, and that will give us the ability. And by the way, this is the way security has always gone. Security doesn't proactively shoot blindfolded, in terms of fixes for potential problems that may happen. No. It sees exploits that happen and attack people and cause major problems. And then only then does it react. It trails the exploits.
So how common is that, like one of those novel security attacks that we haven't seen before? How common is that versus just like some other typical common scams? And what are some other common scams that people should be looking out for with hot wallets?
Okay. So how common are novel attacks? They're common. Depends whether or not you hear about them, but they're common and they're effective. And attackers that are wise use them in small bites and they keep under the radar. One of these Superman movies back in the day with Richard Pryor, and his big thing was he's going to attack a whole bunch of accounts in all the banks in the world and simply siphon off a fraction of a penny off of each. So no one's going to notice it, but he's going to make out like a bandit every single day. And so that was the premise of his thing. But that's exactly the way that smart attackers will run exploits. They'll take rounding errors and they'll fly under the radar and they'll make out like bandits. The more high profile attacks are very short lived. And then, of course, we build on safeguards and we have a solution to the problem, and then we move on with our lives. We recover, we move on. The most common scam that I find in terms of hot wallets is the ability to link up with counterfeit or nefarious websites, unknowingly follow links. People are enticed by come and claim your free tokens as a XXX token holder, and all you have to do is connect up your wallet and you're good to go. Or, you know what, I've got this new thing, I'm your support agent, and in order to verify your account, all you have to do is connect up with this website and give an allowance by signing a $0 contract or a minor ETH fee contract, and I'll be able to verify it and give you whatever support I need to do. It's almost embarrassing to describe these to you, because on the surface you would say, who the hell would be stupid enough to do that? The point is it's the majority of the calls that I get, the DMs that I get are related to this type of exploit.
And like I was saying earlier, it also has to do with the knowledge gap and the technology gap that people kind of have to get used to, the barrier to entry to get into crypto to really understand like how it works. Because you have to transfer from exchanges to your hot wallet, and then you've got several hot wallets, you want to spread out your crypto. It can get really confusing, and you got to make sure that all the addresses are perfect on them so you don't lose your crypto into limbo. There's a lot of technological information that you kind of need to know to do these things. So when you see something as simple as, hey, this is tech support and I'll fix this for you, or a lot of people just fall for the greed and they say, oh, you send me a Bitcoin and I'll send you 2 back, it sounds enticing. Or they go to a site like you said and they connect to it thinking it's not malicious, or maybe there's one little letter inside the website that's just a little bit different and they don't recognize it, they connect it, and now their money's gone.
Absolutely. But there's a sad thing, and I want to just caveat this. You've touched on something that is not answered by any form of security, and that is the psychological problem that we all have as humans, and that is greed and fear. So greed and fear can motivate you to lower your defenses completely. So there's nothing that I or anybody else can suggest to you to add any layer of security that will prevent you from lowering your defenses and letting the Trojan horse come right into your capital and unload its payload and slaughter everybody in the night. Even a hardware wallet will not protect you if you are gullible enough or naive enough to go after something and click those buttons blindly and give somebody carte blanche ability to drain your wallet out.
So now let's transition over to cold wallets. So why are cold wallets the best option? And why are they they the safest option, and why should somebody consider a cold wallet?
Okay. So the most secure way to protect your seed phrases, private key, is to take it completely offline, to scribble it down on paper, legibly, of course, or as I suggest to people, make sure that it's flood and fire resistant. So you would want to either hammer it into fender washers and stack those fender washers up with a bolt through them and then keep that in a very safe place. And this is part of the nomenclature. Obfuscate those terms so they are not easy to read. You would employ your own simple cipher code to scramble them up just a little bit, not to confuse you, but definitely to make it more difficult for an attacker to easily read them, or inscribe them into commercially pure titanium, which is available in the scrap market. I wouldn't suggest getting it from China because it'll most likely be stainless steel that you get instead of titanium, and also avoid alloys because they have a memory. So what we say in the hex community is get commercially pure titanium. It comes in 4 grades, and get an engraver off of Amazon because that's just an easy thing you can get, cheap, and has a diamond head tip, and get a deep groove and get your seeds done there. That would justify a backup, and the backup in itself, if you didn't have them in a hot wallet or even in a hardware wallet, would justify a complete cold storage scenario. They are offline. They are in your control in the real world. Hide them wherever you want, split them up geographically if you want to. There's a method called Shamir secret sharing, which retains the amount of encryption, but also allows you to have some kind of disaster recovery. In the case that an attacker finds one part, they can't reconstitute your seeds. They can't get into your wallet. But the other 2 parts that are also known to you in terms of geographic location, if you can collect those other 2 parts, you can recover your seed as well. If your house burns down, only one part is gone. The other 2 are off-site somewhere else. That's the best way to do things.
So you're saying you would make 2 copies of your seeds on that titanium and then store them in 2 separate locations?
Not exactly. So the Shamir secret sharing method actually breaks it into 2/3, 2/3, and 2/3 on 3 separate plates.
Okay.
But it also gives the correct amount of decoy words in there to retain the amount of encrypted strength. So each of these plates would be separated geographically. You could also make it a 2 are necessary out of 3, or a 3 are necessary out of 5, or 5 are necessary out of 10, or not 10. You never have an even amount. But what I'm saying is you could scale it up so that many different redundant locations could be selected, and you would collect any number of those to reconstitute your seed in case of calamity.
So if something did happen, let's say a fire, and maybe one of them got burnt, or that's one of your seeds that was missing. So how would you collect that seed?
You wouldn't have to, because let me give you a scenario. If I wrote down the letters A and B on one card and B and C on the next and A and C on the third, how many would you have to collect before you could reconstitute? Yeah, you have to do A, B, and C, right? So two pieces. And it doesn't matter which 2. And that also follows true for different layers, like different numbers that you could actually use, 5, 7, 10.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. You've given a lot of people advice to make it common practice to actually have 2 cold storage wallets. So what's the purpose of having 2?
Okay. Why 2 wallets? If you were to start things the right way, you wouldn't need 2 wallets. You could be very happy with using only one hardware wallet, cold storage wallet. The reason that we talk about 2 is because in Hex, we have kind of a time locking mechanism where we stake our Hex for a long period of time, up to 15.2 years. And once you start on that road, you're locked in to that stake, and that stake is connected up with a specific wallet address, and that wallet address is attached firm, immovable to a seed. That seed began its life on your browser extension hot wallet. So how do we move that stake into somewhere a little bit more secure, albeit incrementally? Still, you want to stop the bleeding, so to speak, and cover your bases, because maybe you won't notice that you've been compromised, but all of a sudden you find an attacker is waiting for that specific airdrop or for your stake to become mature, and then they come out of the woodwork. They're sharing the wallet with you quiet all along, and then they come in to collect all the wonderful things that you were hoping to get. So in this case, we've got to migrate that seed from, in this case, MetaMask into the hardware wallet 1. Hardware wallet 1 gets the migration of the seed. Now, one hardware wallet can only hold 1 seed. So as we've migrated this successfully, we probably wouldn't want to keep building on this wallet, because we assume the reason that we migrated it was because it was potentially compromised or could have been any time before the migration. And we don't want to build on a castle that has a foundation of quicksand. We want to keep being vigilant and sending all liquid that becomes available from this wallet to somewhere safe. Where is somewhere safe? A second hardware wallet. Second hardware wallet with a 24-word seed phrase, perhaps employing a passphrase. A safe place has to be presented, and in this case, it would be the second hardware wallet. So I would simply do a simple send when things become available in liquid from the migrated wallet to the vault wallet, as we would call it, with a 24-word seed phrase as my long-term holding place.
It's really for anybody who had already used MetaMask, but doesn't want to risk keeping their stake or their assets on MetaMask. They just migrate it over to a second cold wallet. But assuming that somebody is brand new to crypto, they haven't set anything up initially, what you're saying is that you initially want to get things onto a cold wallet as fast as possible. And if you do it the correct way, technically you would maybe only need one cold wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. If you onboard somebody and introduce the necessity of getting a hardware wallet in the mix before they make their initial purchases, you've saved that person a world of hurt. Even if they're excited and they say, oh, the price is right, or the sacrifice phase is on now and the bonding curve is such, and I really got to do it now. Tell them, man, you'll save yourself a world of hurt later on by getting started the right way. All my onboards for Hex, I have a requirement. If they don't get themselves a hardware wallet, we don't start. It's tough, but once you explain it to somebody, it's kind of easy for them to understand that, oh, wait a minute. So I can't go buy a diamond ring. I can't invest in diamonds until I actually have a safe in my house. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. You need the security first. You need to make the base investment first. In this case, it's like $65 for like for a hardware wallet. Why wouldn't you take out insurance, right, to do things right from the very beginning? Because your investment is probably going to be a lot more than $65 at the beginning. And a couple months later, as we've seen in Hex, it's worth a hell of a lot more than $65. And once you're committed to that and you've got to do a migration, it's a whole hassle, and you got to handhold these people through the process. And sometimes they get very nervous halfway through the process and they spend more time and effort, and it costs for another whole hardware wallet. All these things can be avoided if they listen to you at the beginning and they adopt the strategy of getting a hardware wallet from the beginning.
And if you think about it, in the legacy system, you would never go to a bank that didn't have proper security. You would never give a bank your money if they didn't have proper security systems in place first before you gave them money. It's just common sense.
Absolutely. It's common sense, but in this game, there's no common sense. Okay. There's only those base lizard brain type of strategies that you employ. You say, get rich quick, number go up, win Lambo. All this stuff trumps all sense. And you'll find by talking with people all over the world now, because you're connected globally in assets like Hex. You talk to a community that is very diverse. It comes from all sorts of different backgrounds and stuff. And you find quickly that there is no common sense in the world. It's all just lizard brain mentality that you've got to keep suppressed. Rise above that to A, protect what you've got, and B, protect what you've got by thinking like an attacker.
Yeah, that's key. If you're enjoying this content and you're getting some value out of it, please consider supporting the Crypto Fitness channel. You may do so by minting a Beast Bro NFT at escobarj.com/beast-bros-NFT. You mint a Beast Bro, you send the corresponding amount of ADA to this wallet address, and your Beast Bro will be minted on the blockchain within a couple hours. Or if you don't like NFTs, you can donate any amount of Hex, Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or USD. Wallet addresses are down into the description. Let's go through a quick scenario. So let's say that somebody, they messed up, they've had their money on an exchange forever, they just got into a hot wallet, they use that hot wallet, let's say MetaMask, to sacrifice for, let's say, Pulse Chain or PulseX, and now they don't really know what to do. What would you say to someone like that?
Excellent. Well, the answer is that it's a somewhat easy fix to get back on that horse and ride it in the right direction. You're kind of trailing the horse, thinking that's the way you used it before, on ground, walking next to it, saying, why am I getting so exhausted? You've got the ability to, in the case of sacrifice, you've got a limited amount of time that you're going to be susceptible to attack. And that is the length of time it takes from the time that you sacrificed until the go live date, and potentially rumored to be mythically and hopefully that African priest will rain down some kind of airdrop into your wallet at that time. Between the time that you sacrifice and between that airdrop is the time that you're susceptible. Now, when that airdrop occurs, again, you've got to have somewhere safe to send that asset, right? And if you don't have that by that time, you're going to still be maintaining that gaping hole in your security.
The risk.
The risk. But what that person should do is buy a hardware wallet, migrate the seed seed from MetaMask over to the hardware wallet. Don't forget to uninstall, reinstall MetaMask, and create a brand new 12-word seed phrase wallet on MetaMask. Why? Because the hardware wallet that now has the same seed and MetaMask that had the same seed cannot connect if the seed is the same. And MetaMask is an exquisite, used correctly as a front end for a hardware wallet in the world of DeFi. It's a great tool because it's convenient and you don't have to worry about the security being bad because your hardware wallet is providing the security backend. So used together, you get both convenience and security. Now, I'd still tell that person to go buy another hardware wallet and start to read up on what passphrase enabled hidden wallets are all about, what the risks involved are about, and then I'd have them create a 24-word seed phrase on that wallet as a first step to getting understanding about how to use that as your safe place.
Okay, so two wallets is still the ideal strategy.
Still, like, for somebody that's sacrificed. Look, the other idea is there's two other answers. One is you can be okay with the risk and you can wait it out, right? You can only have one hardware wallet and you make that your safe place and you just wait until MetaMask delivers you this African priest's lovely airdrop. And when that happens, you have a place to send it and you get on with your life. You sleep tight. You say, you know what? If I get screwed, I get screwed. I'm okay with that. Another way is a very complicated way of using one hardware wallet for both the migratory wallet and the vault wallet. And that involves introducing the seed, creating the vault wallet first, copy pasting the public address, which is not the private key nor the seeds, somewhere electronically, like in your address book on MetaMask, keeping that where you can get to it, then wiping the unit clean, generating a brand new, well, not generating anything, migrating the seed from MetaMask after that, using that migratory wallet to house the migrated seed from MetaMask, wiping MetaMask out, reinstalling MetaMask, creating a new 12-word seed phrase wallet so that seed store on your local machine is wiped out. And then
it's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. And then finally, check, there's one more step to this whole mix. When you get your airdrop, what do you do with it? You send it blindly to that seed that's stored offline because you can send to wallets that are not online. That's what people somehow forget sometimes. You can always send to somebody even if they're not there to receive it. So the same holds true for your wallets. If they're in cold storage, you can always send to them, but you can't interact with them unless they are loaded into some kind of front end interface like MetaMask, which you should not do. Never introduce your seeds back into MetaMask by typing them in a keyboard. Never introduce them into anything that resembles a keyboard. Only ever reintroduce your seed phrase that you have in cold storage into the secure interface of a hardware wallet. Okay. So that's my whole spiel. I'm telling you that you should do two hardware wallets for all that complexity and stupidity. You could avoid that by just getting two hardware wallets. The price of entry is like $150 start to finish to get two of them, and you just keep them separate. No other risk of hosing things up.
So now let's talk about what kind of hardware wallets to get. What are the advantages and disadvantages to one over the other? What do you recommend as far as hardware wallets go?
I strongly recommend that you stick to the classics, those that have withstood the test of time, not manufacture the hardware or loaded software in China, okay, or other states that have the same type of rules as China does. And you should all know that there's a strict policy in China, and that is if hardware is manufactured there and software is loaded or firmware is loaded in that hardware and it incorporates encryption, any encrypto technology that requires some kind of decryption, that decryption key has to be registered with the state and the military.
Oh, wow.
So that means whenever somebody comes to me and says, hey, this bit of technology is great, I think it's wonderful, and I've had no problems with it in the past, and I see that it's made in China, I say, you've got to migrate from this immediately. And they say, well, why? There's never been a problem. You can't crack it. Sometimes people try to wager with me and they say, put your money where your mouth is, Papah B, crack this wallet, crack it. If you can't crack it, I want that money. And I say to them, you don't have to make that bet. It's already pre-cracked because the cryptographic methods and decryption keys are already registered with China.
So what's the solution to that then?
Solution is there's two wallets that I recommend, two manufacturers that I think have withstood the test of time. They're not flashy. They do the basic things that you need to do. They have a great team behind them, from what I know, from my cursory delving into their teams. But most importantly, and this is the way you select a security company in any type of cybersecurity, any type of IT or OT security, you always look at the company stands to lose what? The companies that have the most to lose reputation-wise in the market, they're the first mover advantage. Everything's been invested in this thing. They've got an actual team. They've got an address that's not inside China. They've got a lot of happy customers, right? And they've got no high-profile events that have compromised any of their customers. If there was such an event and you got screwed, they would be absolutely flattened in terms of the market. Confidence would be gone. And those two makes are Ledger and Trezor. Ledger is spelled Ledger, and Trezor is spelled a little bit funny, Trezor. The websites are ledger.com and trezor.io. These are the only two places you should look to and purchase your hardware devices.
For anybody in watching this, I will go ahead and I'll link those two websites in the description below, so you know they're the legitimate sites and you can access their products there.
Yeah, I would also urge you to look at those links that he's going to post, but don't click on them. You should probably type them in yourself if you really want to be secure. And don't be clicking on any links on any PC that you're dedicating to the use of cryptocurrency.
Good advice.
Always type it in yourself into the URL bar.
So I know that Trezor and Ledger, they both have several different products. So which of those do you recommend?
Yeah, you don't have to go super flash on this. Both of the lowest end products, especially for ERC20 type of tokens, the only thing you should be looking at are the lowest end ones, the Nano S from Ledger and the Trezor Model 1 or Trezor 1 from Trezor. I'm partial to the Trezor line because I like the interface, the lack of workarounds, the product build, the customer database. Someone may bring this up and they'll say, I thought I heard that Ledger was hacked. No, they were never hacked. What happened was the customer database was accidentally broadcast out to the greater world. And then, of course, everyone's names and addresses being doxed. Then they were subject to a reverse engineering gift attack where attackers gave these people a letter that looked real and they gave them all a pre-hacked or pre-cracked Ledger Nano X. And since that was a brand new type of device and it looked that was coming from the company, some people plugged that in. Little did they know that on the chipset inside, there was a little gift that was soldered onto a counterfeited chipset. And that was a USB phone home device that didn't have any of the other chips present at all. And all it did was take your funds that you connected it up with and shoot them all back to China.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
By the way, I can't say it was China. Okay. You know, it was an FTP site that was, think it was either in Southeast Asia or Northeast Asia, but we can't know if that was a legitimate site in terms of location. Anyway, attackers made hay on that one. So please be careful. And I have to address the other thing that people come to me and they say, you know, Papah, hey, you're telling me about these two hardware devices and there are known exploits in these two makes and models, right? And the answer is, you're damn right there are. Since 2017, there have been a documented reverse engineering attack is quite possible to do if the attacker has the physical custody of your hardware device. So if you take it out of the house and you think it looks like a keychain, so you pop it on your key fob, you walk around town with it, you think, I've got the power of the bank in my pocket and I'm going to pay for a cup of coffee with my crypto. Those days are freaking gone. You don't leave the house with your hardware wallet, number one. Number two, an easy attack that you might have seen on YouTube with some dude who's trying to basically clout chase and tell everybody, I recovered $2 million worth of assets by, he used an exploit that has been patched from 2017 and has been the actual exploit where you take off the domain chip off the silicon and put it directly into a chip reader and run an easy script is far easier. And it's been documented many times. The latest one was from Kraken Security Labs about 2 years ago. They show you a time-lapse view of exactly what you do start to finish. And 1 year before that, it was showcased at a hackathon where a white hat ethical hacking firm showed people and made available kits to be able to do the exploit. Why? Because you're helping people prepare for this thing. And the two people that of note that were present at that hackathon were the chief product officers of both Trezor and Ledger. So it's known, it's accepted, and it's something that we can live with. Why? Because you have to compromise a little bit in terms of the company's integrity, the place where they're manufactured and their firmware comes from. The fact that it can be exploited means that you can crack it open and see for sure yourself that there's no reverse engineering attack present on that chipset. Other amazing, cheap, gimmicky type of solutions are out there. Those that take a scan of something from your phone onto the device, which is supposedly air gap. Those things are all over the place. And people don't think that A, this is made in China, and B, there's no such thing as air gapping in this game. And as you you load things like clients, the front end computer user interface that appears on your phone or your PC, when you load that onto your local machine, be it your phone or your PC, you're open to attack. You're trusting a company, again, with questionable amounts of funds backing them, which means that they may not have anything to lose if suddenly there's an exploit and you get totally hosed. You can't sue anybody. You can't get anything from them. They're not worried about going out of business because they just pull the tent pegs up and move and rebrand themselves something else the next week. So please don't fall into these traps of something new and seemingly great and cheap, because if it's cheap, most likely you're the product. Trezor and Ledger only, please, for now. And I'm not married to those two brands over the next forever. As soon as a new brand presents itself with great bones and has been seasoned in the market, I'll be the first to say, this is a great thing and we ought to use it. But as of right now, there's only two that I can recommend.
So I know that there's going to be people who have different crypto assets. And I know that different ledgers and different Trezors have different capabilities. So what would you say to somebody who holds maybe some other coins that aren't as compatible, like maybe a Cardano, a Monero, those types of projects?
Well, okay, so Cardano has ADA Lite, which is compatible with Trezor, I think, and Ledger now. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I farted around with ADA. But anyway, Cardano is addressed in that fashion. Don't be scared about that. XRP and Monero, I think, are both supported on Ledger, so it's not a problem there either.
What I'm asking is, like, in the product line of Trezor and Ledger, what are the advantages of going with like the basic model versus one of the more expensive?
Sure. The more expensive models have more memory. That's almost the only distinction between the lower end ones and the high end ones. From a security standpoint, they're on equal footing for the most part. If you want to have the ability to load on more asset wallets, then the lowest models can take like 4 unique assets, of which all of your ERC20s only constitute one wallet. They can all go into the Ethereum wallet. So you don't have to worry about that. You got like 10,000 ERC20s that you can support through one Ethereum wallet. So you don't have to worry about that. But as you get into your Monero, your ADA, your Polkadot and other stuff, I've got a mental block about Polkadot in case you haven't seen. It's like, I was definitely a big Polkadot advocate a long time ago. And now there's just this block. Ever since I discovered Hex and Pulse Chain is coming out, I can't even think about these promise chains.
I'm the same way.
I can't even think about them anymore. So that's why I focus only on the ability of the lower end models to support the Ethereum wallet, because it will also support all Ethereum forks. So don't worry about the support of Pulse Chain, for example. All Pulse Chain assets will appear on MetaMask just as easily as, any other fork that's come off of Ethereum, like Binance Smart Chain or any of those forks that have launched as ghost chains. But we are launching full. So there you go. I gotta work in these little plugs because I'm obsessed.
I'm a Hexagon to heart. My channel is mainly Hex focused, Pulse Chain and Pulse focus. Next question is, so let's say somebody just bought their Ledger or Trezor. What's the first thing they should do with it? Give us like a step by step what the process is once they receive it in the mail.
Okay, so which scenario do we have? Do we have a migration or do we have a brand new wallet creation?
Let's do both.
Well, look, I've got a video that you can put a link to, comments below, as they say, right? You can put the link to that video. We just made it. It leads you through the step-by-step approach of a wallet creation, migration first, and then a wallet creation after. Just as a caveat, we create a MetaMask wallet as a sample wallet of one that you may already have. It is not an invitation to create a MetaMask wallet first and then automatically migrate it as your next portion of the workflow. It isn't like that. Just understand, we provide it to you as a courtesy, as if you already had a MetaMask wallet for the migration. But the first step, Jay, the most important step is, for God's sake, open it the hell up. So many times I get people in chat, and you've been in there, right?
Yep, I have.
In PulseX chat, we get people saying, oh yes, enough, Papah B. Don't browbeat me enough. Don't browbeat me so much. I've got the hardware wallet. I ordered it. It's just sitting up there. But because yesterday I had to party, then it was the Super Bowl, then it was my birthday, then it's my anniversary, then it's my kid's wedding. I mean, all these excuses preventing you from, or the worst one is, are you ready for the worst one? I'm still researching how to use it.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Okay. Please
just use the damn thing.
Just use the damn thing. Open it up. There are so many videos. There's a live chat that we run on Telegram channel and PulseX video chat. You can come in there. We'll lead you through it if you can't figure things out. We got videos to support you. There's so many reasons that you can just get it done in 15 minutes. 15 minutes start to finish. If that's not too short of an answer, together.
Oh, that's great. Before we get to the Q&A, because I do have a few questions, I just want to maybe like a bullet round. Some of these questions we already answered too. Anything else you want to throw in before we get to the Q&A?
Well, it's funny that we just scratched the surface. I mean, I'm glad that we didn't delve down into the real nitty gritty of the technical aspects, because that's not necessarily where I swim deep. I think that we lose a lot of people when we start talking about the BIP 39 compliant seed word list, and why can't people suddenly type in random words and score a wallet that has something in it? And then you have to run the chances, right? You're running all these percentage chances. You're handicapping the event itself. We get into the weeds. So thank you very much for just talking about the top, the things that really matter. There is a bit of trust involved here. And finally, as a caveat, anything that comes out of my mouth or Jay's mouth, you should always do your own due diligence. You should get a second data point at very least and confirm that we're not full of shit.
Great points. I love that. Well, let's jump to some Q&A here. So how many wallets could we have before it's too many? This is in particular to hot wallets.
Okay, that's great. That's a great question. So hot wallets, too many is really one. But wallets in general that you actually have the keys to that are offline, or you can manage safely without it being too complicated for you to get screwed up or lose track of them or somehow write them down incorrectly, is infinite. So you can create, with one hardware wallet, you can create an infinite amount of wallets. You can generate as many seeds as you want. You can generate accounts underneath each of those seeds. You can generate passphrases to create hidden wallets under each of these seeds. So you could have as many as you want and effectively hide in plain sight. An attacker can get your seeds and they cannot get into a hidden wallet, or they can get one of your seeds, but it's only one of 100 that you have, in your possession that you can manage effectively, and you have written down on a plate of steel or titanium in the necessary ways to keep it both disaster recovery friendly and also obfuscated so that attackers can't find it and decipher it. Too many, there is not too many when it comes to offline wallets.
Should we have different wallets on different platforms? Why?
When you say platform, I assume that you mean the makes and models of the manufacturers and not just your operating system platform. Well, let's address them both. Opening yourself up and training yourself to understand all sorts of different platforms, be it OS, and being able to navigate to hook up a hardware wallet with a Mac product, a Linux product, or a Windows product, can only make you stronger. Being comfortable in any eventuality that you find yourself, if you have to flee your house because of a disaster and your neighbor only has a Mac, and then you have your hardware wallet, you have your seeds, you want to reconstitute them, and you're in that position, it would have been great if you were comfortable with all the platforms, all the makes and models, be it Ledger and Trezor, Nano X, Nano S, Trezor One, or Trezor Model T. If you feel comfortable with all these things, you're only helping yourself out on the long run. And understand this, that if your hardware wallet fails, you should effectively plan on this happening. They're going to fail. And when they fail, you have to still, I'd say, retain ownership of them. Keep them in your safe as if they're still alive. Just keep the parts, or pulverize the hell out of them until they're basically, there's nothing that can hold a charge, is still alive, into fragments smaller than anything, right? Grains of sand.
So what is the shelf life of a hardware wallet?
Well, it's only got a 1-year warranty, but I have some that have been absolutely putting around since 2017, and they've been very strong since then. There's no failure at all. You do have to electrify them within, I'd say, every year. Plug them in and make sure that there's a charge, because the way that this flash memory works is that as it doesn't get a charge, it's not a great way to back up your seeds on like a thumb drive, for example. Why? Because they have even shorter spans before the electrons start to float back to the zero mark. And that's the way that memory is kind of stowed in these chips. Is that when you electrify them, they charge up, and all these tiny electrons are on the chip. They stay either on 1 or 0. And as it ages and doesn't have electric charge, they naturally migrate to 0 as the charge depletes from the unit.
Next question. What's your opinion on the safety of MetaMask? As I see a lot of videos about MetaMask wallets being hacked. This is from someone in my community.
I really don't think MetaMask is safe on its own. I think it's terrible from a security standpoint. And also, it's so conveniently supported on handheld handheld devices, on mobile devices, on phones, on tablets. Do not use MetaMask alone, first of all. Second of all, don't use MetaMask alone on your phone. In fact, don't use any mobile devices at all for crypto. MetaMask itself.
Well, hold on. So why is that?
Because like I said at the very beginning, that there's a bounty of threat vectors for mobile devices. I was in that industry for a while, and I'll tell you that it's very difficult to lock down a phone and keep it having a semblance of the phone that you know and love. People demand to have the convenience of Google Play Store or their iPhone, whatever the app store is on iPhone, right? If you were to truly lock down a phone and rid itself of all the attack surfaces, you would be left with a shell of a phone that was running a Linux OS that wouldn't give you any access to anything convenient. It wouldn't even have a SIM card in it. It would only be operating on Wi-Fi. Now, what the hell are you doing with that as a phone? Why do you call that a phone? Look, when I was in the security handset business, I'll tell you that we failed. And we failed because we gave people the ability to lock down every application. And in locking down the ability for all these applications to get the backdoors into all of your precious data and get allowances to use your microphone for some mail something or other, or your camera for something that wasn't related to anything to do with cameras, we gave the user the ability to toggle those off. But when you do, you break the app. It's no longer usable, and it's not our fault. We're just making it secure. Yeah. It's like putting a condom over an Ethernet cable. There's your safe connectivity, right? Well, I can't do anything. No, but it's safe. So it failed. And people don't value their security and even their anonymity very much in the simple handset space. They figure that it's already either secure or I don't have anything to hide. Well, now you do. Your crypto is the asset. It is the future, and you're in this game. So take it seriously.
Especially when you have assets that Hex, Pulse Chain, Pulse specifically, those can be worth a lot of money one day, and you don't want to risk losing those assets.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Did I even effectively answer that last question?
No,
Maybe
yeah,
I went
you did.
off on a tangent.
No, you did. That's perfect. Okay, so the next question was, what is a cold wallet for, and when should we get one, and why? We definitely covered that one. How much value would you recommend be in each wallet before we should get another wallet?
Excellent question. It's up to you. How much would you not jump out the window if you were to lose it? And this is really tricky because even I miscalculated with Hex. Even I said, well, here's my level, and I'm going to plan for it to be this level because here's where I think this highly appreciating currency can possibly go in the next 2 years. And we blew right past everybody's expectations. And here we are sitting on this stuff that you're like gnawing on your fingernails saying, I can't believe I'm trusting that much of an asset on that tiny bit of plastic. So what I would do as a rule of thumb is plot out where you think an asset's going to go in 2 years, multiply that times 10 or 100, and then start to plan how many wallets you would trust with that. And also look up on passphrase enabled hidden wallets. Again, if you're going to get into the dark arts of passphrases, which is introducing a 25th word into the equation or 13th word in the case of a 12-word seed phrase, if you were to do that, you could further bifurcate your amount that you have under the same seed, but in two separate wallets with two separate passphrases. Maybe your kids' accounts can be held under a similar wallet, and you can keep track of them that way with passphrase distinction. It's good for things that people don't think about, like what if suddenly survivorship is something that you have to worry about? You keel over and you have to pass this on to one of your loved ones. It's easier to do that by having a finite amount of wallets, but having them so you can just pass them on. But the answer to the question is, what can you feel comfortable losing and not absolutely jumping out of the window? Figure 10% of your amount per wallet. If you lost 10% in a day, well, you're not going to kill yourself over it, right? Maybe that's a good rule of thumb. Maybe it isn't. It really is depending on what works for you. But you shouldn't have to lose any of it if you're seriously careful. You don't leave the house with seeds, and you obfuscate them appropriately, and you get your security locked down like a pro. Okay. And you can, by the way, you can. It doesn't cost you any more money to do it the right way. It just costs you the ability to suddenly do it. Get off the pot and get going.
Take action.
Take action, right?
So you kind of segued perfectly into the next question, which was if somebody has crypto held in like a cold wallet or even a hot wallet, but in the future, let's say somebody dies off, somebody has like a will, how does one pass on their crypto assets safely and securely to their lineage or the next generations?
I think about this every day because I'm not a young buck anymore, right? I'm pretty long in the tooth, and I got to think I've got 2 kids and I love them, my wife. I want to make sure that if something happens to me, that it's easy for them to know how to do what I've been doing and maintain both the security and also the staking ladder that I've provided for them so that they can keep growing as they get their assets released to them on a, whatever basis I've set up on the staking ladder, they're able to extract that value. Personally, if you're your own bank, you're also your own attorney who's administrating your will, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't want this to get tied up in probate.
Right.
And you wouldn't want like inheritance tax or estate tax or whatever your jurisdiction calls it to come in with a microscope and start saying, well, we take 80% of that. So that could really screw your kids up if it wasn't known to them how to take care of the asset while you're alive, how to maintain it, how to get in and out of the wallets while you're alive. You have to trust somebody, right, in your life. And that somebody is generally your spouse. If you thought and it was good enough to put a ring on her finger or his finger, you should damn well be partners in crypto as well. Nothing's more satisfying than coming and having a nice cup of tea and looking at the beautiful charts together and saying, well, here's how we plan our future together and what should happen to me. Here's what you know how to do. Here's how we devise the right decryptability of that certain equation that then allows me to unlock this passphrase that then unlocks this wallet. If you understand that, darling, if I'm gone, the first thing that you have to do is make sure that the kids, when they're of age, also know the right way to get into this wallet.
Okay.
You just got to do it that way. Keep it in the family. Do not trust attorneys. Attorneys are people.
Yep.
Don't trust anybody other than the person that you want to leave it to, and make sure that they're good and ready to listen to what you have to say. And last but not least, do not trust anything to memory. A brain wallet is the worst wallet to trust in, because all it takes is a bit of senility or forgetfulness or stroke, and you yourself are barred from your wallet. So do not ever trust in that. Trust in something that's written down always, from past words to seeds to past phrases. Make sure that they are all simple cipher encrypted yourself, and that the recipe for that cipher is also kept somewhere safe so that you can then decode exactly how to get into these wallets. Vitalik Buterin uses this strategy. If it's good enough for Vitalik Buterin, it's damn well good enough for you.
Definitely. All right, here's a good one. How do you get someone who isn't technically savvy to understand this information?
You have to take responsibility and handhold them through the exercise. It's both good for you because you're going through the steps in the process. And once you teach them, truly teach them, and they learn, then you ask them to spread that knowledge onto the next person. And that's the way you build a very secure community, and people don't get rinsed and the attackers bugger off and go find someone else.
I completely agree. Personal responsibility. I mean, that's really what the ethos of crypto is all about. And specifically with Hex as well. There's a lot of free thinkers in the Hex community. So taking responsibility for your finances really is the way of the future. And it's great advice.
Yep. And also you can utilize videos that we prepare as in the comments below. And if you have any feedback for us, you can contact Jay if something's missing or if you're confused about something. We as a community are there to help you in the Telegram voice chat available through PulseX.com right now. And it'll be something else at some point. The video could date itself shortly, and it may be in Hex.com, it may be in Pulse.com, and it may be PulseX.com. Either way, we're always here to help, and always in public, and always through voice, and always vet these things that we tell you by a second data source that you trust.
Do your own research is always great advice. Papah Boehner, appreciate you coming on. Where can anybody find you if they have any more questions, or what's the best way to contact you if someone has questions?
I'm an admin in the PulseX video chat, so I'm there most of the time. I just hang out there, or I'm monitoring it passively through the YouTube feed, which we're also simulcast on YouTube. I am active in burgeoning channel, up and coming channel called Magic Carpet Ride 369 on YouTube. And of course, the Discourse Syndicate Network. I stream with them on both Monday show, which is Hex Asians, because I'm in Asia, and the other one is Wake Up Hex on Tuesday mornings with Kinetics. You can message me real time there. You can bother me on the chat if I'm there, but there's lots of people that are getting the ideas that can support you at any time you have, 24 hours a day on that PulseX chat.
All right, Papah B, appreciate your time. Been a pleasure, and thank you for your wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching the video. If you watched the entire thing and you made it here to the end, make sure to comment down below Papah B and give him some love. Man, this conversation was wicked. Papah B is a wizard when it comes to crypto security. And just to kind of recap, there's no point in owning all the crypto in the world if it's not safely secured. And to a further degree, you can have all the money in the world, but if your health is not in check to enjoy that money, then there's no point in that either. And that is why the name of my channel is Crypto Fitness, because I believe in keeping your mind, your body, and your money secure. So I hope you enjoyed the quality of this content. And if you want more content like this, I do this all for free. So if you'd like to support the Crypto Fitness channel, you can mint a Beast Pro NFT or donate any amount of Hex, Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or USD. Of course, it's not mandatory. You don't have to, but if you would like to support, it'd be greatly appreciated. That's it for me. I'm out. Stay savage.